Welcome on board this Sea Ray SDX 250 Surf. I just checked, we have 4.5 degrees centigrade water temperature, so we thought it's an ideal moment to test this Sea Ray in the Surf Edition. I'm only joking. We're about to take this boat into winter storage, and I just realized we didn't make a video on this SDX Surf yet, so here we are on the water, a beautiful November day in Aalsmeer. We have been fortunate to take this number one, which actually is a prototype of Sea Ray, out on the water a couple of times. I tested this one in, I think it was March even this year, and also luckily in Cannes, where we had 25 degrees. And I have been able to actually surf behind this SDX 250 Surf, and I love it. It's a great boat, love the concept, but I'll tell you more about that. But as usual, I'd like to take you through this boat and point out the details that Sea Ray is known for. And there's a couple of things I particularly like with this boat. I have two kids, two daughters, and they usually, when they come on board, the first thing they do is they try to find a charging point for their mobile phones. And while I'm sitting here, I actually see two, right in these two corners. And they're not only USB type C, but also, I think they're called type B USB ports. So there's one on either side. And again, that is, I think, very practical. Not only that, you see this pad here, which is a great place to just store your phone. And it's not only a bit sheltered, but it doesn't slide off. This is, I would even call it dedicated storage for your mobile phone. And of course, we have these stainless steel cup holders. And there's even 4 in this bow area, which I really think is practical. And not only that, of course, we have grab rails to hold on to. But I'll tell you more about that in a moment, because usually I start off at the bow, and this being an SDX where the bow area is more or less a bit straight versus an SLX, which is like this. And also with this sea deck, this is just very practical to step on and off the boat. Not only that, if I open this here, you see that it has this anchor winch right here. And I think as an alternative, or maybe even combined, you may also be able to have a bow ladder. But I'd need to check that. I'm a bit, well, I'm not really well prepared because this all of a sudden came up doing this walkthrough. So sorry about that, but of course we can check out those details later. I love that Sea Ray is still using a stainless steel anchor. I sometimes see other brands using galvanized anchors. I just think only for the looks already, this is just really nice to have. Proper hinges here, stainless steel over the full beam of this hatch right here. And you may see also this opening right here. There's 4 of these in the bow area, and that is because you can have an optional sunshade in the bow area. I think this is new for 2025. Being here in the Netherlands, we may not need that all too often, but if you're on the water on a sunny day when it's 30 degrees, it's just really nice to be able to protect yourself so that you can stay out on the water longer and don't get burned. There's 2 speakers in the bow area. And of course we have the stainless steel cleats with Sea Ray logo engraved, done in a proper way. And please notice also this stitching, which is the SDX stitching, really nicely done with the Sea Ray logo stitched right here. It's just the details that count. And of course, I really think that's not a detail, but just a really practical thing, the ergonomics. I tend to sit on all boats. We do a walkthrough on just to show you how actually this is done. And there's a couple of things I'd like to point out. Grab rail in just the right place. You see that I'm sitting in a very natural position, and this is right in the proper place. This is a really good point to have your arm on, and this backrest is angled in just the right way. It's high enough. This just feels really comfortable. So a great place to sit. Of course, there's a possibility to also have this laid out as a sun pad where there's filler pieces for this area so that you can enjoy the sunshine. And in practice, the bow area and bow riders, my experience is that kids usually make this their own area. So this usually is the place where the kids are and hang out, but it's just a really nice place. Not only that, if you don't use the filler piece, you can also have a table in the bow area. And the table, I think, is in a locker right there, which is a truly nicely varnished wooden table. So I think it looks really warm and luxurious, very classy and timeless. Just checking if there's anything I'm forgetting. Some people ask me how boats are covered. And with the bow riders of Sea Ray, usually in the captain's package, there's a separate cover for the bow area and a separate cover for the cockpit area, with a small support right here in the middle to drain the water off properly. And the material that Sea Ray is using is usually Sunbrella, which is a really high quality material, which is protected from having mildew. And it also ventilates basically because, well, this may be important because most people expect covers to be really watertight, and they basically are, but in places like this, and especially where the bow cover and the cockpit cover are connected, you may have some water leaking in. Not a problem at all, especially because this Sunbrella also ventilates. If you do get a bit of water in, it will also, well, fade away because of the ventilation. So a really good thing that Sea Ray is doing that. Again, I love the sea decking, which is used throughout the boat. This particular number one, again, this is a prototype. I just think it looks really nice, but not only that, it's very practical, and at the same time it makes the boat look really nice. Also in combination with this dune upholstery, which is basically a kind of two-tone upholstery. And also again here, nice details is that they use different colors and even different stitching colors, which I just think makes it look really warm and luxurious. Of course, there's storage underneath these cushions. And just as a detail, you see a cushion here and there's holes. You may see them on the camera. There's holes here. And this may not seem important, but it actually is, because of course cushions tend to get wet, especially on a sporty boat such as this SDX Surf, where you do wake boarding, water skiing, wake surfing. So you get on board being wet, you may have a wet wetsuit on. So no matter how, but cushions tend to get wet. And because of this ventilation, that makes these cushions last a lot longer than on different brands where this is not done. And also these are here to have this cushion fixed in a way that it doesn't slide at all. So again, attention to detail. And a minor thing also, you may be able to show it here. This cushion end here is slightly elevated. And that is because if I sit here, you're basically protected from sliding off, and it just makes you feel more comfortable and protected in some way. Anything I'm forgetting? Below here there's a small, I would even call it a cooler. Of course there's no active electric cooler here, but this still could be used as a cooler area where you put in some, well, a bit of ice, and your drinks remain cool during the day. Let's go back. Of course, before we go back, this can be closed off by doing this, and also closing this door here. Should really be doing this with two hands, so that you more or less get kind of an air dam. You get the idea if I do like this, which is really nice, especially on days such as today where it's really cold. You close this off, and you get less wind in the cockpit area, so you can stay there and still feel comfortable, and you don't get cold that quickly. A really nice thing, by the way, is that this boat is also equipped with the heater. You may see the controls right here, where the heat of the engine is used to heat up this area. There's how do I call it? I would maybe even call it kind of an exhaust, where the engine heat comes out. And another thing is that this area, I'm immediately going into detail, but this area here is quite a big storage. And the good thing with this also is that it's basically connected a bit with the engine area, so that the excess heat of the engine also comes in this area. And this I am mentioning because this usually is the place where you put wet stuff, so it also dries out if you use this area. Please note these gas struts and the hinges, which are all the way so that you can leave it open, put in boards, take them out easily. And again, I know in the meantime from experience that this is big enough to put in a few boards. And what you may also see, if I ask Thijs, the camera guy, to point out that, you see these here. And that is because all the cup holders are drained. And that is a detail that I like, because if you get out in the water and you get surprised by a sudden shower and the water comes in and you forget about it, you go away, you don't use your boat for a month or so, you come back and the water's still in. These don't last as long as they do with Sea Ray boats, because the water is drained. So this is the cupboard where the table, I think it's 2 are stored, and also the filler piece for the bow area, and a small glove box right here with drainage also, and a small gasket right here to not get water inside there. It's again attention to detail. I like this material being used so that keys or whatever don't slide off that easily. Audio controls right here, speaker of course on both sides, cup holder, again drained, and also here ergonomics. This is a really comfortable place to sit, with also a good grab rail and also a place to put your arm on. So a really nice area. I know from experience that sometimes people bring coolers, and this actually could be an area where you put a second cooler. There's also a pad here to store your phone when you use this. And what I truly love about this boat is being able to swivel these backrests on both sides. And now I'm coming back to the concept of this boat, because I just love this cockpit being very roomy for a couple of reasons. Again, I have been surfing behind this boat, wake surfing without a line. Love it. It's really fun to do. But why I'm so enthusiastic about the surf boats from Sea Ray is that it is, I would call it a family boat. So somebody being maybe even in his 70s could enjoy this boat, bring kids and grandkids, where everybody can have fun. And what I mean by that is that if you take this cockpit, I mean, this is just a really big cockpit where you can do some lounging like this, sit here with a big group of friends, take your family with you. And the nice thing about this wake surfing is that, from my experience, you bring friends or family, they're here, they talk to each other, and somebody is behind the boat enjoying himself. They're behind the boat only a couple of meters, so you can still talk, because you're driving relatively slow, maybe around 16 to 18 kilometers an hour, which is relatively slow. So everybody can still enjoy talking to one another, looking around, enjoying the nice sunshine. So again, this is is a true family boat, and not only for wake surfing but also to enjoy the sunshine, anchoring, having a drink, a nice lunch or whatever. And for the lunch or the drinks you may need a table, and that is why this footrest, I would call it, is mounted here. So again, you have an L-shaped support here for the wooden table, which is used in the back of this cockpit area. So a really great area again to sit. You can swivel both backrests right here. And again, I also know from experience that of course you have, if you fold this like this, you have a flip up right here. So you could use this like this, which is really nice. But if you do wake surfing, even when you're as tall as I am, 1.92 meters, the boat, when you try to make the perfect wave, which is relatively simple by the way, the boat tends to drive, and I'm exaggerating, tends to drive all right like this. So it may be useful to be higher so that you can look over the bow area. And what I tend to do is I don't use this one. I slide this forward and I tend to use this. And driving like this, I am quite high. I have my feet here on this angled footrest so that I am protected. I don't fall overboard. I sit comfortably. I can just enjoy driving this boat and still drive safely, being able to look around and have fun in a safe way. And while I'm here, I also love this helm area. Let me slide this backwards. Of course, I can tilt the steering wheel, and I have these two 9-inch screens from Simrad. I am a true Simrad fan. I love these screens because they're really nice and bright, especially in really bright sunshine conditions. These are really great. And this Sea Ray Next Wave app, I would call it, a nice piece of software, is just fantastic. I have in the past driven a few wakeboard boats where you of course also have trim tabs and ballast tanks where you need to set them up yourself, which can be quite a challenge and a bit cumbersome. There's no need to do it on this SDX Surf, because the only thing you do is you engage this software, you turn it on like that, and when you engage it turns on, and you just choose if you want to surf left, surf right, set a target speed, and basically that's everything you need to do. So it's really simple. And of course you can do other things than surfing. You see here that you can choose between surfing, wakeboarding, skiing or tubing. So a really nice way to use this Sea Ray. And again, you can set a lot of things. You can make the wave higher or lower, and you can even set the way you launch. So people who are really experienced, they tend to want to get out of the water really quickly. People who are still learning, they want to speed up in a more gradual way. So you take the launch to a different level, so it takes a bit more time getting out of the water. That is a piece of software for the sporty side of this Sea Ray. But of course you can do other things where you can, well, choose between different apps, use it as an echo sounder, and this you can change from either side. So you can have the echo sounder here, you could have a chart, or like I'm showing here, engine data. So really nice screens with lots of possibilities. Love these toggle switches that Sea Ray is using to switch the lights on and off. A bow thruster, which is an option. Always recommend choosing a bow thruster. Makes boating life a lot easier. And of course, with every Sea Ray you get an automatic fire extinguisher system in the engine room. And also here we have a USB C and B port right here, 12 volt socket, cup holder, indirect lights here. You could still use the trim tabs manually, but I don't see the point, to be honest, because this system does it automatically, and the same applies to the forward facing drive. So this is not a regular stern drive, but a forward facing drive, which is basically a stern drive which has been turned around with the propellers pointing forward. But there's also an active trim system where the trim automatically adjusts, and when you are surfing, the trim adjusts in a way not only the drive but also the trim tabs, so that you get the optimal wave. Anything I'm forgetting here? Talked about ergonomics. There's a cup holder here, but I noticed one here also, which is really nice. And also this panel right here I like, which is made in a way that it looks like leather with nice stitching here on the side. Of course it's artificial leather, but a really nice detail which just makes it feel very warm. But it's also practical, because if this would be white, reflection would mean that, well, you would have glare, etc., etc. So this is practical also. There is a small area here. Let me just open it up and go in briefly. This is a head where, of course, there's a toilet. Again, I'm 1.92 m. I could still sit here. And I even have a USB port here. You can have a vacuum flush or a pump out head right here. There's a small sink with a tab, a cushion here. This toilet can also be covered with a cushion, so if you have small kids who still need to sleep during the day, this is an ideal place for them to sleep safely, protected and quiet. So practical area also for storage. If you bring, well, whatever you want to bring, there's plenty of place to put it in here. Sorry about the mess here. This is still, again, a new boat. There's some parts with the boat, but I really like this area where Sea Ray has basically made this, well, kind of asymmetric, with this walkthrough being a bit over the port side, resulting in a relatively big area for a 25-footer on the starboard side. I really like this. Let me see what else I'm forgetting. I've talked about the storage below here. There is also storage slash a cooler. You could have an electric cooler in this area, and also here there's a gas strut and a full hinge of the full length. And another thing I also like, again here I'm talking from experience, if you tend to use this boat, you go out in the water, usually with the idea you're going to have fun, towing someone behind the boat, take a group of friends, and what usually happens is that everyone has sunglasses, phones, keys, a towel, lots of stuff. And what I like, I'm mentioning this because this area is a very practical area. I love that Sea Ray has opened this up, because this you don't really use sitting like this, because you don't really need this. This is much more important, and by opening this up, this gives you some advantages. One, there's added cup holders here. Secondly, there's a charging pad. If I put my phone here, the phone is also charged, but you see there's plenty of space left still. So you could put phone, drinks, sunglasses, well, all kinds of stuff right here without being afraid of losing it, getting wet, etc., etc. So a very practical area. There's also here, by the way, this, we put the heating on, so this actually, I now feel some warmth coming from the engine right here. this is the filler cap for the water. Indirect lighting for the floor area. And again, also usually people tend to sit here being slightly wet, may even have a wetsuit on. And this sea deck right here is really very practical. And you have these surf racks on the other side. They swivel out like this. And you can have, of course, surf boats right here. You could also have a wakeboard here or water skis or whatever. And this also is really practical. If you're out on the water with a group of people, they bring their own boards. And of course you have people who are heavier or taller, etc., etc. So you bring different boards. And you have these on either side, so you can store your boards right here. And they're not in the way, basically. And if they're wet, they tend to, lose the water on the side. The water doesn't get in. And I know in the meantime from experience also that sometimes even if you're anchoring, you hang your wetsuit or your swimming vest or whatever to dry on this place. So really practical, and I also like that you can just do like this. If you're going to a mooring or whatever and you don't want to damage the boat next to you, you just take it in like I'm doing now. This is the tower, which can be lowered electrically. And also you have the bimini right here, which is quite long, so you have lots of protection. I love these speakers. I think they come in a special audio bundle. And this is really nice when you're out on the water and somebody's having fun behind the boat and you still have some music on. Can be really nice. You have this small gate here for small kids or a small dog. I really have cold hands in the meantime. And also here there's added storage which is drained, so that if you have wet shoes or anything else, you can just leave it here without worrying of it falling off the boat. And you may see these controls for the stern drive, the forward facing drive. They are here, this is here, because if you put the boat on a trailer, you don't have to step on board with dirty feet, etc. You can take the drive up right here, or if you beach your boat, this can also be really practical. I like the small detail with the Sea Ray logo right there, really nice. This is also very practical, where you have this swimming ladder, 3 steps, mounted right here, where you just don't hurt your feet or stumble over the bathing ladder. It's really very practical with the grab rail right here, so that you get out of the water. You can grab this and get in and out of the water easily. This submersible swim platform, now the engine is taken off. That is a piece of safety. But a really nice detailed submersible swim platform. I won't show it now because the water again is 4.5 degrees or so. But this is very practical if you want to put on a wakeboard or something like that. So really practical. Also the sea deck right here makes it really comfortable to sit here, to take stuff on or off, and also enjoy the water if it's 25 degrees or so. 2 additional cup holders on the back here, controls for the audio, another USB port, and also this, I think there's one in the bow area which I forgot. Well, actually I'm sure. This is of course to take a small shower, useful in salt water areas. This is where you can have a stainless steel flagpole. And I also love on both sides this. Of course, this is more practical if you take this out, swivel it to the outside. But this is easy to get on or off the boat by having a step-on on a higher position than right here, if you have a relatively high dock. I could try to open up the engine hatch. Not sure where that was, I think it was here. Yep. Just to show you how this looks. This is equipped with the 6.2 V8 from Cruiser in the 350 horsepower version. Standard, it comes with the 300 horsepower version. I would recommend having the 350 horsepower because it is a sports boat, and if you are 6+ people on board, not for wake surfing, it's not so important because you don't need to have a high speed, but if you want to go water skiing, stuff like that, it is just nice to have the 350 horsepower version. Notice the gas struts also, the gunnel so that the water drains, proper hinges, so if a mechanic would need to work on this engine, doesn't need to worry with it falling down when it's a force 5 outside or something. So nice attention to detail like we're used to from Sea Ray. Notice all the cabling, etc. Nicely done. The fire extinguisher automatic. There's pumps right here. I forgot that there's ballast tanks. You can have 3, but usually there are 2 because if you choose the bow thruster, you don't have the one in the bow, but from my experience, you don't need it. I mean, I've used this boat a couple of times, and I think it's fine with the 2 ballast tanks that this one has. Anything I'm forgetting? I don't think so. So let's close this off and let's take her out for a spin. Off we go. I haven't talked much about this surfing, the software, etc. I did mention something. But there's a few other videos. We did one on the SDX 270 surf. But what I would also like to mention is that somebody is really well known for wakeboarding and wake surfing, etc., etc., is Sean Murray. And he actually tested this SDX 250 surf also, especially looking at how it runs and how the wake surfing / wakeboarding is. So I would recommend checking his videos, and he's actually even been going barefoot behind the SDX 250 surf. So it's powerful enough to go that fast that you can even go barefoot behind this boat. So now I'd like to just show you how it runs. We're driving slowly now, doing 1,500 RPM approximately, 10.5 kilometers an hour, which is even slightly too fast for the small canals we have in this area, but going even slower, say 8 kilometers an hour. It just runs really nicely, very smoothly. And there's not a lot of engine noise, so a really comfortable boat. But not only that, a comfortable place to sit, even for tall people like myself. And being here, I can put my arm here, use the throttles. They are, by the way, digital throttle and shift. That is what the controls are, meaning that they are really smooth, easy to use, and they are more quiet. Let me take up some speed. 1,900 RPM roughly. This is not the ideal cruising speed. I would, as a displacement speed, go slightly slower, but I just want to take her up to plane. So let me do that, pushing the throttle gently. Here we go, up to plane. Again, the active trim is on. You can see right here that they are on. Oh, not on. Now they are on number 3. So I don't have to touch the controls, and I can just drive, and it automatically levels. Really simple. Sorry, it doesn't automatically level. It automatically adjusts the trim level of the engine of the stern drive. Doing 40 kilometers an hour, Engine is getting a bit more noisy, but then again we're doing 40 kilometers an hour, 3,650 RPM. Really nice, good cruising speed. And if, sorry, I need to be slightly careful for the cameraman. If I take tight turns, it feels really safe, fun, easy to steer. We take a short turn the other side, the starboard side. I seem to notice that the turns are a bit shorter than with the regular stern drive. It's really fun. It just feels very reliable, very solid. That's fun. And again, it's powerful. So we're now doing 40 kilometers an hour. And if I press throttle, it still goes. There's plenty of power. So let me see what you can do at a top speed. (69 kilometers per hour). 70. Roughly 70. I'm trimming the engine down. Let me take her up slightly. There we go again. Yep, 70.5 roughly. We're on the other side, so I have to take the speed down. I really love it. So, truly love this boat, and I truly love the concept of having fun with the family. So I would certainly recommend not only coming to our showroom to have a look at this boat, but come back in spring when the water's warmer. Bring your swim trunks and we'll take you out in the water. But for now, I'd like to thank you for watching. Enjoy the coming winter. I hope it's relatively short, so we'll be able to get out in the water soon. But again, thank you for watching. See you in one of our next videos.